what an intriguing group of individuals you are. To a psychologist, I've had the opportunity over the last couple of days of listening in on some of your conversations and watching you interact with each other, and I think it's fair to say already that there are 47 people in this audience at this moment displaying psychological symptoms I would like to discuss today. And I thought you might like to know who you are. But instead of pointing at you, which would be gratuitous and intrusive, I thought I would tell you a few facts and stories in which you may catch a glimpse of yourself. I'm at the field of research known as personality psychology, which is part of the larger personality science, which spans the full spectrum from neurons to narratives. And what we try to do, in our own way, is to make sense of how each of us, each of you, is in certain respects like other people, like some other people, and like no other person. Now already you may be saying of yourself, I'm not intriguing. I am the 46th, the most boring person in the Western Hemisphere. Or you may say of yourself, I am intriguing. Even if I am regarded by most people as a great thundering twit. But it is your self-diagnosed boringness and your inherent twittiness that makes me, a psychologist, really fascinated by you. So let me explain why this is so. One of the most influential approaches in personality science is known as traits, which are normally distributed, and thus describe universally held aspects of difference between people. They spell out the acronym OCEAN. So O stands for open to experience, versus those who are more closed. C stands for conscientiousness. In contrast to those who are more lackadaisical approach to life, E, extroversion. In contrast to more introverted people, A, agreeable individuals. In contrast to those decidedly not agreeable, and N, neurotic individuals. In contrast to those who are more stable. All of these dimensions have implications for your well-being, for how our life goes. And so we know that, for example, openness and consciousness are very good predictors of life success. But the open people achieve that success through being audacious and occasionally odd. The conscientious people achieve it through sticking to deadlines, through persevering, as well as having some passion. Extroversion and agreeableness are both conducive to working well with people. Extroverts, for example, I find intriguing. In my classes, I sometimes give them a basic fact that might be revealing with respect to their personality. I tell them that it is virtually impossible for dolls to lick the outside of their own elbow. Did you know that? Already, some of you have tried to lick the outside of your elbow, but extroverts amongst you are probably those who are not only tried, but they have successfully licked the elbow of the person sitting next to them. Those are the extroverts. Let me deal in a bit more detail with extroversion because it's consequential and it's intriguing, and it helps us understand what I call our three natures. First, our biogenic nature, our sociogenic or second nature, which has to do with the cultural and social aspects of our lives. Third, what makes you individually you, idiosyncratic, what I call your idiogenic nature. Let me explain. One of the things that characterizes extroverts is they need stimulation, and that stimulation can be achieved by finding things that are exciting. Loud noises, parties, social events. Here at TED, you see extroverts forming a magnetic core, and they all gather together. And I've seen you. Introverts are more likely to spend time in the quiet spaces up on second floor. They're able to reduce stimulations, and they may be misconstrued as being antisocial, but you're not necessarily antisocial. It may be that you simply realize that you do better when you have a chance to lower that level of stimulation. Sometimes it's an internal stimulant from your body. Caffeine, for example, works much better with extroverts than it does to introverts. When extroverts come into the office at 9 o'clock in the morning and say, I really need a cup of coffee, they're not kidding. They really do. Introverts do not do as well, particularly if the task they engaged in and they have had some coffee, if those tasks are speeded and if they're quantitative. Introverts may give up the appearance of not being particularly quantitative, but it's a miscontrol. So here are the consequences that are really quite intriguing. We not always seem to be, and that takes me to my next point.